The Fever front office is about to do another roster overhaul for the 2026 WNBA season.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, saw this coming. The Indiana Fever just detonated a bombshell that shook the entire WNBA. Hours after getting bounced from the playoffs, they dropped 8 players in one night. Gone. Just like that. Fans were stunned. Insiders scrambled for answers, and even rival coaches were left speechless. What could make a franchise torch its own roster this fast? Was this some carefully planned rebuild months in the making? Or a knee-jerk reaction? A desperate move after yet another disappointing finish? Either way, one thing's for sure. The Fever just changed the entire conversation overnight.
A lot of players will be exiting the building like Elvis, bruh. They got to get the hell out of Dodge. Now, I'm telling you right now, I believe more than half of this team is going to leave. I just got to keep it real. A lot of players is going to leave. I believe a few big names is probably going to leave. And more importantly, we need to get the ball back to Kate.
This isn't just about basketball anymore. Not even close. This is about ego, power, and pressure behind closed doors. A front office tug-of-war over how fast they can build a title team around Caitlin Clark before the window slams shut. Now that the dust's settling, the questions are flying. Who's safe? Who's next? What direction is this team really heading? Because the truth behind those 8 cuts runs way deeper than anyone thought. And it starts with what was really happening inside that organization long before the first headline dropped.
No one predicted them to go this far, especially without Caitlin Clark. Now, granted, they was projected to be, final contenders, but that was with the roster that they had. Obviously, they had a whole nother roster, and like I keep telling you, momentum was...
When that final buzzer sounded, it didn't just end their playoff run. It ended an era. Inside that locker room, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Players who'd fought through injuries and endless rotation chaos suddenly realized their futures were hanging by a thread. Coaches went silent. The air was heavy. And before anyone even left the building, whispers started. Something big was coming. Sources say this wasn't an overnight call. It had been brewing for weeks. Disagreements between the front office and head coach Stephanie White over lineups and chemistry had boiled for months. The Fever's late-season collapse exposed every weakness. Shaky rotations, locker room friction, veterans clashing with rookies. By the time elimination hit, management had already decided. The reset button was getting slammed, hard.
Y'all know, Stephanie White was running a whole lot of sets, bro. Whole lot of sets, whole lot of off-ball things, whole lot of things that Caitlin Clark really don't like to do, bro. Let's just be honest. Caitlin Clark is being the biggest trooper for this damn basketball team, but I think, just like I stated before,
the Fever had gone all in on Caitlin Clark, the league's brightest star and marketing machine. But fans were asking the obvious. If you have Caitlin Clark, why wasn't the system built for her? Analysts kept pointing out how far the offense drifted from the free-flowing, fast-paced rhythm that made her a legend at Iowa. Instead, it turned slow, rigid, predictable, a grind. Clark tried to adapt, but the weight was obvious. By the last game, she looked drained, carrying the offense alone inside a system that suffocated her natural game. Then came the injuries. One by one, key players fell, and the team's lack of depth was brutally exposed. The front office blamed coaching. Players blamed conditioning. And when the losses piled up, the message became crystal clear. Change wasn't optional anymore. Before sunrise the next day, phones rang, agents were notified, and 8 players got the call they were done.
They was running this off ball and doing all these different experiments. Without momentum, I don't believe they would have made it as far. I believe they was playing meaningful basketball just due to the amount of injuries that the team took, and it kind of motivated them. They said it in their exit interview. The bench power pretty much motivated them and gave them the energy they need to prolong and get through a bunch of them long stretches and them.
Ruthless? Absolutely. But it sent a message louder than words. The Fever were done settling. This wasn't about surviving another season. This was about building a contender. A roster built around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston that could actually compete for a championship. But while fans cheered the idea of a clean rebuild, others saw something darker. A power struggle at the top, pressure mounting, and leadership trying to reassert control. Because this wasn't just a roster move. It was a line in the sand. The Fever's front office had reached its breaking point. And if you think 8 cuts was the end, just wait. The next name on that list might shock you. Because after this purge, one truth stood out. The Fever are finally ready to build around Caitlin Clark. the right way. Let's listen to what Caitlin herself said years ago.
A huge reason why I came here, and that's what she preached to me in the recruiting process. You know, you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot. And I think a lot of my final schools kind of had that same look, but I think the read and react offense that we run was super important for myself. You know, you're making basketball reads. It's not a set. You're not being told what to do every single time you come down the floor. You're just playing the game you love.
For months, fans have begged the organization to let Caitlin be Caitlin. No more overstructured sets. No more pulling her off the ball. What made her a generational star at Iowa wasn't just her shooting. It was her freedom, her rhythm, her control of the game. When she played loose, everything clicked. The team fed off her energy. But when that freedom vanished, so did the team's identity. Inside the Fever's front office, voices have been pushing to bring back that same read and react style, even referencing Lisa Blutter's Iowa system as the blueprint. There, Clark wasn't just a scorer. She was the conductor of chaos. Now, with cap space freed up and the roster thinned, this could finally become her team in every sense. The offseason plan? Add high IQ shooters and floor spacers who can move, cut, and read Caitlin's game. Not wait for set plays. The goal? An Iowa on steroids offense that lets Clark dictate the tempo and keeps defenses scrambling. And if you're not ready to shoot, cut, or move without the ball, don't even bother showing up to training camp. Clark's been patient, but her frustration's shown in subtle ways. Her tone in pressers, her body language on the court. When she said she just wanted to play basketball again, fans knew exactly what she meant. This rebuild isn't just cutting players, it's cutting excuses. It's aligning everything, coaching, recruiting, rotations, around the player who single-handedly reignited WNBA fandom. If the Fever fully commit to that vision, they could be unstoppable. But one massive question remains. Can Stephanie White adapt? Because the same coach who relied on rigid playbooks now faces a career-defining choice. Evolve with Caitlin's game, or become the next name on that exit list.
The style of play, and this is what I've been saying, we need to go back to the basics. And the basic is this style of play with Caitlin Clark, giving her the ball. Let her play freely, openly. Let her do what she do. No calling different sets going up the court. No doing none of this. Put players around Caitlin with that know how to obviously read sets, know their responsibility, because Caitlin Clark said it hurt.
As the dust settled, one name kept echoing through every conversation: Stephanie White. Once praised for steadying a young team, she now stands at the center of rising tension. Insiders say her relationship with the front office has eroded, and it's not hard to see why. Her old school, play-by-play system just doesn't fit where the Fever want to go. White's offense once worked, sure. But with Caitlin Clark running the show, it looked outdated, slow, predictable, drained of creativity. Analysts said it. Fans saw it. And the front office finally agreed. Change is non-negotiable. Her defenders point to the chaos she faced. Injuries, lineup shuffles, and players still learning how to play around a superstar. But her critics say she refused to evolve, clinging to structure while the game passed her by. Too often, the offense felt robotic. Endless pick and rolls, forced isolation, and Clark boxed in instead of unleashed. For a player who thrives on instinct, it was torture. Tension hit a boiling point late in the season. Management demanded a faster, freer system built around Caitlin's reads. White pushed back, saying the team wasn't ready. The result? A quiet power struggle that shaped their final stretch. Players noticed. Some veterans backed White's discipline. Younger players whispered about feeling micromanaged. And while Caitlin stayed diplomatic in public, her body language said it all. The hesitation, the glances to the bench, the spark fading from her game. Now, with 8 players gone, the spotlight burns brighter than ever on Stephanie White. The whispers of her replacement are getting louder, and the Fever are already scouting new coaches who can unlock Clark's full potential. Whether White survives this offseason depends on one thing. Can she evolve? Because the message from management couldn't be clearer. This franchise now belongs to Caitlin Clark. And if the coach can't build around her the right way, the next farewell announcement out of Indiana might have Stephanie White's name on it.
Bree Hall gone, Shea Petty gone, Natasha Howard gone, Bree Turner gone, Damster's gone. That's 5. Ariel Powers, Sydney Colson. Hold on, Sydney Colson and Damster's 8. Yep. I believe they lose 8 players. This is just my prediction.
The second the news broke, 8 players gone in one night, the internet exploded. Fans were stunned, confused, and desperate for answers. Who stayed? Who got cut? And why all at once? Within minutes, the names started surfacing, and a clear pattern emerged. This wasn't random. It was a statement. Every single release carried meaning, each one a message that Indiana was done with mediocrity. The purge started small. Shea Petty and DeWanna Bonner types, players who'd shown flashes but never consistency. Injuries, slumps, and uneven minutes sealed their fate. The Fever wanted reliability now, not potential someday. Then came the shockwave, Natasha Howard. A champion, a vet, a respected name. But insiders say her contract demands and uneven performances made the decision easy. She wanted top-tier money. Indiana wanted a system built around Clark and Boston. No middle ground. And just when fans thought it couldn't get more ruthless, it did. Lexi Hull and Sydney Colson were next. Hull, a fan favorite and defensive anchor, couldn't justify her salary with injuries piling up. Colson's cut hurt the most. Her leadership and humor were the locker room's heartbeat. But the front office wanted youth, speed, and scoring. 2 points per game just wasn't enough anymore. Ariel Powers? That one was expected. Her fit with Clark never clicked. Then Chloe Bibby and Khadijah Stokes, both promising, both respected, were shown the door too. The Fever liked them, but this rebuild wasn't sentimental. It was surgical. 8 players gone. One night, millions in cap space freed up. And suddenly, the Fever had financial power they hadn't seen in years. Fans immediately went wild with speculation. New shooters, defensive wings, veteran leaders. Everyone had a theory. But underneath the excitement was something heavier. These weren't just names on a roster. These were careers, teammates, people. Some will find new homes. Others might never return to the league. That's the brutal reality of pro basketball. Still, the bigger question lingered. Did Indiana move too fast? 8 cuts in one sweep felt extreme, maybe even desperate. But management saw it differently. To them, this was necessary surgery, painful but essential. They believed clearing out the old system was the only way to build something real. And if it works, this could go down as the night the Fever finally grew up. If not, it could haunt them for years as a cautionary tale of overreach. But one thing's already changed forever: the balance of power inside that locker room. For the first time since Caitlin Clark's arrival, everything now revolves around her. The old hierarchy is gone. The veterans who used to run the tempo, call the shots, and hold the room together? Mostly out. What's left is a team designed to follow Clark's lead. Kelsey Mitchell stands as one of the last true holdovers, loyal, battle-tested, and finally in sync with Clark by season's end. Insiders say she's now the anchor, the veteran mentor who'll steady the young core and help shape the new identity. And then there's Aaliyah Boston, the quiet force who never needed headlines. Unshakable, consistent, untouchable in this rebuild. Together, Clark and Boston are the twin pillars of the franchise, fire and foundation. Every roster move now flows through that partnership. Shooters, screeners, and defenders, all chosen to fit their rhythm. But not everyone's happy about the new order. Some players are uneasy, worried that Indiana's entire identity is being swallowed by Clark's spotlight. Others whisper that management's putting too much pressure on one player too soon. And they might be right, because Clark's stardom has transformed this team into a national spectacle. Every move she makes, every comment she drops, magnified under the brightest spotlight in sports. Still, the message from the top couldn't be clearer. This is Caitlin's team now. Period. Executives have ordered total alignment, from coaching to staff. One insider called it a reset, not a rebuild. Meaning, if you're not on board with this vision, you won't last in Indiana. And the shift is already visible at practice. The energy feels lighter, faster, freer. The ball moves quicker. The offense breathes. Players are learning to move off Clark's reads, not wait for rigid play calls. It's messy, but it's progress, real progress. For the first time in years, there's genuine belief inside that building. But belief comes with pressure, massive pressure. One wrong move, one bad losing streak, and the same fans cheering this new era could turn fast. Because at the heart of this purge wasn't just basketball. It was business. Cutting 8 contracts cleared millions, giving Indiana the flexibility to actually chase elite fits around Clark. This wasn't just trimming the roster, it was a financial reset. The Fever were drowning in mid-tier deals that didn't deliver results. Players like Howard and Powers ate up cap space without moving the needle. The front office finally snapped. They didn't just cut players, they cut wasted potential and bad economics. Now, the franchise has room to maneuver. The goal: surround Clark with high IQ, low-cost talent that complements her pace. Shooters who move, vets willing to sacrifice, young players hungry to prove themselves. Think Iowa on steroids, but budgeted smart. No overpaying, no ego contracts, no anchors dragging the franchise down. Still, critics aren't impressed. Agents are calling it heartless. Some say it sends the message that loyalty means nothing in Indiana. But the Fever's front office doesn't care. Loyalty doesn't win titles, structure does. Their message is crystal clear. If you can't perform on the court or justify your paycheck, you're gone. Because from this point forward, everything in Indiana runs on two things: Caitlin Clark and the bottom line. When the purge went public, hashtags like #FeverPurge and #ClarkEra flooded social media. ESPN panels debated it nonstop. Genius or panic? Read one headline. To Clark's supporters, this was vindication. Let her cook trended again as fans demanded a system built entirely around her instincts. The deep logo threes, the no-look passes, the chaos that made her a legend at Iowa. To critics, though, it looked like the Fever caved to hype, rebuilding around one superstar, not a full team. Inside the locker room, it was bittersweet. Some players cried, some quietly packed their bags, others felt relieved. Clark herself stayed silent, mostly. But when fans noticed she'd liked a few posts supporting the cuts, the internet lost its mind. That tiny gesture fueled the narrative. Clark isn't just the face of the franchise, she's the driving force behind it. TV networks jumped all over it. Talk shows turned it into a saga. Indiana, once overlooked, was suddenly the most talked about team in the WNBA. Love it or hate it, the Fever are now the story. And through all the chaos, one thing's undeniable: this purge reignited the league. 8 players gone, but Indiana gained something priceless: relevance, momentum, and belief. Now comes the real test. The Fever have cap space, a clear vision, and the brightest spotlight in basketball. This offseason will define everything, not just for the franchise, but for Caitlin Clark's legacy itself. They're not rebuilding anymore. They're rewriting their future, faster, bolder, and all in. The goal is simple: build a team that mirrors Clark's creativity and Boston's dominance. A fearless, fluid, modern offense that moves like clockwork. And while the risks are real, egos, expectations, pressure, so is the promise. Because for the first time in years, Indiana basketball feels alive. This isn't a rebuild. It's a revolution. And if it works, the night of the 8-player purge will go down as the moment the Fever were reborn. But if it fails, it'll become the league's biggest what if. Either way, the message is loud and clear. The Caitlin Clark era has officially begun.